Okay, this is a very exciting panel for me because it's about jobs, something that's really important, really near and dear to me. I am a past president of the National Association of Workforce Development Professionals. I have seen firsthand what a job can do for a person. There are very few social or personal ills in this world that are not cured by having a productive job. I've been all over the country. I've seen all sorts of job training centers. I've seen people struggling, people from young people from the inner city, dropouts, older workers, displaced workers, people with disabilities, ex-offenders coming out of jail trying to make a new life. There's a lot of people out there that a job is what's standing between them and happiness. And so when there are these things like illegal immigration, excessive healthcare regulations, things that prevent people, especially the lower level people, from getting jobs, that's a very important and troubling thing. Okay, I've got two panels here. On my left, your right, speaking today about illegal immigration is Tom Fitton. Tom is president of Judicial Watch. It's a public interest group that investigates and prosecutes government corruption. Founded in 1994, Judicial Watch was named one of Washington's top 10 most effective government watchdogs by the Hill newspaper. Tom himself, he's a well-known national spokesperson for the conservative cause. You see him on TV, you read about him on the paper, you hear him on the radio, sometimes I even see him on the Washington Metro. But most importantly to the audience today is that Tom and Judicial Watch gave absolutely critical legal support to Neil Parrott's successful initiative to put in-state tuition for illegal aliens on the November ballot. Passage of Maryland and Martin O'Malley brought out millions of dollars, some of the biggest legal names in the country, to try to keep this initiative off the ballot. And without Judicial Watch on our side, we wouldn't have had a chance. On my right, or left, is Delegate Nic Kipke, who will talk about Obamacare and the impact on Maryland workers. Okay, Nic has represented District 31 in Anne Arundel County since 2006. Yay. Today he is the ranking member on the House Health and Government Operations Committee, which largely handles Maryland health law. He's the youngest delegate to ever serve in that position. I checked, I was graduating college the year he was born. Okay, Nic, more importantly, Nic is also a member of the Maryland Healthcare Reform Coordinating Council. It says the council monitors implementation of the Federal Patient Protection and Affordable Health Care Act of 2010, known to you and me as Obamacare. And as such, it identifies challenges to implementing Obamacare, coordinates and receives briefings, working on, keeps the public and private entities fully engaged. So essentially, Nic actually knows more about Obamacare than the legislators who voted for it in 2010. So we're going to start with Tom. Each is going to talk about 10 minutes, and then we're going to open up for questions, and we're going to try to end right on time because it's lunch is next.
Paul, thank you for that generous introduction. It's an honor to be here. I was looking at the flyer we made available to you in your packets, and I realized that we're doing about as much in Maryland, Judicial Watch is, as we are in any other state in terms of activity. Yes. But for maybe Arizona, and you know where Arizona stands in terms of the front lines, about if you care about it. But this is a wonderful audience, and it's refreshing to know in the heart of darkness there shines a light. This issue began for us many years ago. I don't know how long ago now. I used to know everything, but my brain's full. But it was several years ago we began fighting a day labor site in Herndon, Virginia, taxpayer funded, where illegal aliens would get illegal work with taxpayer money. And that led to coalition work with Help Save Maryland and the other immigration activists in Maryland, and we started investigating the day labor site in Montgomery County, which is a huge operation. Long story short, we initiated litigation over time against Montgomery County College, which was providing illegal in-state tuition benefits to illegal aliens. Maryland law at the time prohibited it, arguably it still prohibits it, but they didn't care. They thought they could get away with it. So we sued on behalf of taxpayers. Now, one of the nice things about Maryland is they have a law, goes back 150 years or so, that allows taxpayers to sue the government to prevent the illegal expenditure of funds, or expenditures of funds for illegal activities. And that's something known as taxpayer standing. I'm not a lawyer, I'm just learning that from litigation actions. And that's what the basis of our lawsuit was against Montgomery County College. Now, we lost initially at the lower court, I think, for non-meritorious reasons, and we appealed it all the way up to the highest court here in Maryland, the highest court of appeals it's called, confusingly. It's the U.S. Supreme Court, it's the Court of Appeals. And the court, since then, obviously, the DREAM Act was passed and approved by members of the community. But the court closely divided as to whether the case should go forward or not, and they ruled that it was mooted out by a 4-3 undecided opinion. So the liberal court in Maryland was almost on our side. We didn't win everything, but we highlighted the issue of this illicit activity by your government elected officials when it came to illegal aliens. In that case alone, we found, based on the documents produced to us, frankly, they're publicly available. It's publicly available information. Just over 4 years, there'd be $7 million in benefits for just the students, illegal alien students in Montgomery County, going in that college. Now, thanks to the DREAM Act, I want you to extrapolate that, and you're talking tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars over time in illegal alien benefits, given to individuals who can't work, who can't contribute as lawful citizens are able to the people of Maryland and the business of government, which the liberals purport to want them to be able to do. So this is a real crisis in my view, in terms of the rule of law. We've got policies now in Maryland that not only subsidize illegal activity, but encourage more. Because you can bet, illegal alien, the left likes to patronize illegal aliens by saying, well, they're just pretending they're simple. They're not simple. I think they're sophisticated and smart, just like the rest of us are. They know where the laws are tended to them. And this is a magnet. Maryland is a magnet for illegal immigration. And the impact on jobs is obvious. The construction trades obviously are impacted by these day labor sites that are subsidized throughout the state. Now you may say, well, if you're a contractor who hires illegal alien labor, that's good for you. Well, most of them don't. And I've talked to, and I'm sure you know, contractors who are outraged that they follow the law and pay their prevailing wages, and they're competing against crooks.
Right.
And they're competing against crooks.
Right.
And Americans who would benefit from those prevailing wages, and legal aliens who would benefit from those prevailing wages, they lose out as well. So it's a question of who you help. Do you help tax-paying citizens who obey the law, or do you take money from them and help those who don't obey the law? And in my view, it's not about helping illegal aliens. It's about keeping certain politicians in office. It's a racket. It's a racket. In our experience, where we have a book out, we'll be selling it afterwards, The Corruption Chronicles, Obama's Big Government, Big Secrecy, and Big Corruption.
Yes.
And that's not just about Obama. that's about the way big government operates generally. When you've got bad policy, it's usually corrupt. It's usually corrupt. In the case of Martin O'Malley, he was using, it looks like, his office to promote the approval of the referenda about the gay marriage craziness and the DREAM Act. So there was corruption behind the effort to get these initiatives passed. And then there was an attack on democracy. I don't know if Neil Parrott's in the room. Is Neil here? I've talked to Neil many times on the phone, but I've never been able to meet him, so hi, Neil. But Neil, you know, when you're talking about the history of Maryland, Neil Parrott's entrepreneurial genius is going to be part of that in terms of Maryland democracy.
Yes.
Because he figured out, as a citizen politician in the true sense of the word, how to use the technology to help give accountability to our government here in Maryland.
Right.
And he's been opposed by the Democratic leadership of the country, the lawyer who's been opposing him, the litigation we've been talking about, we don't have time to get into it, was the former general counsel for the Democratic National Committee. I'm sure he's a Maryland resident, a Maryland lawyer, but you know, if that doesn't send a signal, tell you what the interest is in opposing this, and of course, now there's talk by Maryland Democrats of revising the ballot initiative process to make it even more difficult for you to try to rein in the extremes of the legislation coming out of Maryland. And Neil has stood on behalf of the Maryland taxpayer in that regard and the Maryland voter. We've been proud to stand with him on that in that regard. But I just want to let you know there are ways of stopping what's going on. There's the Maryland taxpayer standing analysis that I've talked about. You've got this initiative process that's been made so much easier as a result of Neil Parrott's innovations. And then, of course, the law's on our side. So despite what everyone says, it's still illegal to be an illegal alien in Maryland. And the DREAM Act doesn't change that. Obama waving a wand over folks who've been here illegally doesn't change that. And this is an issue to me that cuts across party and ideological lines. We did a poll, interestingly, on election night, and we used a polling firm that would have been affiliated with Mitt Romney. I didn't know that until after the fact. Maybe I would have used another firm. But we asked the question, whether you support local police enforcing immigration law or helping enforce immigration law. Do you know that 40% of Hispanics agree with that? 40% of Hispanics, according to our election night poll, people who voted, agreed with the idea of an Arizona-style approach to illegal immigration, having the local police involved helping enforcing immigration laws. That's 13 percentage points higher than the percentage of Hispanics who voted for Mitt Romney. So that, to me, is the lesson here. This is an issue, I think, that appeals to minorities in a way that, you know, when you hear Republicans in Washington talking about, they have no clue about illegal immigration and the impact it has. And I can't think of an issue with a greater divide between the views of the American people, of all races, of all parties, of all ideologies, and the leadership in Washington. So this is a majority issue for us. It's one that I think the law is on our side on, and I think not only do we have an obligation to fight, but if we don't do it, no one else will.
That's right.
If we don't do it, no one else will. So we're happy to do it for you, and we're investigating everything you're concerned about, so don't worry about that. But we stand here willing to help you. So I look forward to your questions.
And yet, you should remember that even though we lost the ballot initiative to stop illegal aliens from getting in-state tuition in Maryland, that question still got 90,000 more votes, 90,000 more votes than Mitt Romney did in Maryland. Next, we'll have Nic Kipke talk about healthcare.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Are you awake?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
There's a lot to be excited about for myself and Delegate Parrott to be in a room in Annapolis with so many conservatives. It's a real shock for us, since normally all the liberals come here during the 90-day session, which began this week. So I'm taking a sigh of relief today to be with you all. We're really at a battle for our lives in a lot of ways. It used to be we were in a battle for our rights, but we're also in a battle for our way of life.
Right.
And to start out, I want to tell you a little bit about me. I ran for office in 2006. I had no background in politics. I was a churchgoer, a Boy Scout growing up, and I was sort of influenced by my family to get involved in public service. And oddly enough, they were all Democrats, but they were all Reagan Democrats, and now they're all Republicans. But more importantly, they taught me to be a conservative, and they themselves really influenced who I am and why I'm fighting. In 2006, I lost 40 pounds campaigning, and I put them all back on over the last few years. And this year, because of Delegate Parrott's efforts with the petition, I lost almost another 40 pounds. So I'm back down to my fighting weight. So if there's any tailors in the room, I need to take in my suit, and I can use your help. I heard something earlier that I really didn't like. It got a really loud applause, and I kind of feel that way. But I want to tell you, it's the wrong path. Someone said earlier that we need to walk out. It's wrong. And I really believe that down to the core of my soul. I want to walk out of the legislature when they pass some of the worst things that they do. But that's giving up. And it's the wrong course for us. If we walk out, they still have enough votes for a quorum. So all we do is make it easy on them. Delegate Parrott and I spend countless hours pretending not to filibuster because we're not allowed to in the House of Delegates. But we make it difficult on them. What we do is we challenge them with questions about the policies that they're passing that they know nothing about. When they passed in 2007 the largest tax increase in Maryland history, it was on a Saturday night, and they didn't start the debate until 8 p.m. The reason for that? That's when the cameras leave. Well, we know that, but we weren't going to make it easy on them. So we stood and we fought and we battled and we raised statistics until 3 a.m. And that's when they finally passed. These people were falling asleep. They couldn't take it anymore. Now, that's part of the battle. We're fighting, and we have to be smarter than them, which isn't hard to do because they have a huge leadership mechanism in the House of Delegates and the Senate where they have analysts and staff. We don't have any of that. But they're just told, here's what we're going to do. We actually have to think about it. We see a bill, we have to read it, we have to analyze it, and we have to compare it to other places in the country where it's been tried and executed and failed, and then we challenge them. But we're still losing, right? We're still losing the debate. And I have some ideas about how we can change that, and we need your help. I was asked today to speak about health care reform. And this is, for most people, the most boring subject to talk about. So I'm going to try to keep it brief and tell you just a few things about it that might be interesting that you can share with other folks in your family or your neighborhood as to why it's a bad policy for Maryland and for the country. First of all, it's the law of the land. However, over 30 states are refusing to implement it. Now, Maryland is one of those states that's right out in front. That has a lot to do with Martin O'Malley's aspirations to be the next president. God save us. And often they blame conservatives for this whole thing. They say, this was Heritage's idea, the health exchange. But we can't let them have that argument because they're wrong. It may look like Heritage's idea, but it's in actual policy, it's nothing like Heritage's idea. Their idea was to put all the health insurance products on a website and let consumers pick, compare, increase competitive forces. That's not what's happening at all. What's happening in Maryland is, at a cost of over $30 million a year of new money being spent by the government, your money, on health care, it's created a new bureaucracy. A bunch of new state employees, a new technical department, And what it's done is it creates an online portal where people can go and buy health insurance, but you're not buying health insurance in a way that creates an economic force of a competitive nature. There's products on the website, but they all have to be the government product. The government says what it is. And all of the products are much more rich than what most people have in the way of health insurance today. So you can't go as a 20-something, for example, and buy a health insurance product that covers serious injuries, serious illnesses, and maybe primary care. Nope, you have to buy a product that covers you for IVF and hair prosthesis and everything under the sun. Essentially, the state employees health care benefit plan, which is the most wealthy plan, richest plan available. And one of the evil secrets about this is this. Today, if a 20-something wanted to buy health insurance, they could go online or call Care First and buy it, and the cost is somewhere between $80 and $120 a month for a pretty good plan. The way Obamacare works in reality, and I don't think anybody's probably heard this yet, is because you can't underwrite the plans, the 20-somethings are treated as if they're in their 50s or 40s. There's an age bracket of 1 to 20, 20 to 60, and 61 and older. So if you want to have health insurance, and the largest group of uninsured people in America are the 20 to 35 bracket. That represents 55% of all the uninsured in America. Wow. And the whole idea is if we get these healthy bodies paying a little bit into the pool, it'll lower the insurance risk, right? More people will be paying in. Here's the problem. Because of the way Obamacare is written, it's almost designed to fail. The cost isn't going to be $80 to $120 for those 20-somethings. It's going to be 3 times that amount. Every executive in a health insurance company has put out estimates. Basically, they have to apply to raise the rates, and they're applying to the government to raise the rates. And they all say it's going to be somewhere between $280 and $400 for those 20-somethings a month. So that these young people don't get into the system today because it's too expensive, or they don't care, or they think that they're invincible. Well, now there's a federal mandate. You have to buy it. You have to get it. So what are they going to do? They're either going to pay the $400 a month, or they're going to pay the fine, which is, it's a gradual scale that increases, but it starts out under $300 a year. So are you going to be forced to pay $400 a month, or are you just going to pay $300 and say, I'm out of here? The other side to it is for the small business folks. Today, as a small business owner, if you offer health insurance to your employees, which most do, it's subsidized by the federal government. Maryland estimates that $600 million of new insurance will be purchased through the exchange. Will the other states who aren't doing it continue to be willing to pay the taxes to pay for Marylanders and their health insurance? It creates a great setting for a national election in our future. So that's a little overview. It's a train wreck, is the gist of it. I want to offer you this. I'm elected, Delegate Parrott's elected. We need your help. It's great to come to conferences and learn these little tidbits and insider baseball of what we know about the individual policies, but we need your help. And there's a couple of things I want to ask you to do. If you're interested in doing more than this, I see some folks in this room who have blogs and they have online access to a lot of people around the state. Look at Delegate Parrott, look at myself as a way to access the legislature. We are fighting an uphill battle. The number of Republicans has basically doubled every 10 years in the legislature. We're up to 43. But we've sort of hit the ceiling. We've beat all the conservative Democrats, basically, and now we've hit the ceiling. The people of Maryland are the ones that really need to get more involved. So if you have access to technology, you should see the stuff that goes on. Bring a camera. We'll tell you where to stand, and we'll put you up in front of the next delegate who embraces socialism. We'd love to get that on video. If you'd like to come down and help with protests, we'll show you how to do it. We need your help. I can provide you access to the legislature, because I want to tell you, we can't walk out. We have to be there. Our eyes need to be on it. We need to spread the word to the rest of the people of the state of Maryland. Because as Winston Churchill said, never, never give up.
We have 9 minutes. If anybody has any questions for Tom or Nick, we have to break exactly at 12:10 so that we can have time for lunch. Questions only, please. Not speeches, questions.
Are you speaking to me, Mr. Mendez? Hello. Hello, gentlemen. I wanted to thank you, Mr. Kipke, for what you said. We all need to get involved, and we need to expose the corruption that's not being exposed. I've seen a lot of it, and I have a lot of witnesses to it. But it's not in the press, except for a couple of intrepid reporters, like the wonderful Doug Gill, who was back there. Doug Gill, I don't know if he's still there, and Jim Simpson. We feed them information that we find. People are shocked. Well, I try not to make this a speech, but I worked on the illegal alien referendum with a lot of people, and I personally was shocked that it passed. I really believe there was some form of corruption. Truly. I mean, I'm losing my voice. Every weekend, dedicated people, people of all colors. It was overwhelming. They would say, oh my God, this is going on. And I want to thank Neil Parrott from my heart. I went to his office and I helped him one day. He and his lovely wife had what they worked, how they...
Judy, question?
No, that was it. The question is, how do we get rid of this corruption? Unless we have a news media that is going to report it. That's it.
If there's anyone in this room who is tech savvy, please come and say hello to me after this get together, because listen, I can't walk around with a camera, right? They're not going to talk to me. Delegate Parrott can't do that. But you can, and we can help provide you access to what goes on there.
Go ahead. Well, just quickly, there's an open records law in Maryland, and you can use this law, you can educate yourself about the law, it's relatively simple, and you can send in requests for information to agencies and to elected officials about what they're up to. Now, they may ignore your request or not give you what you want, but just the mere act of asking them puts them on notice that there's someone watching them. And I would encourage you, this is something we do nationally, we do it locally as well, to use those tools directly yourself. It's something that's available to you under law, and they're required to respond to you under law. And you have to get involved directly with the officials that you're concerned about and demand accountability from them in ways that go beyond confronting them at the ballot box in private. There are ways of doing this between elections that you can take advantage of. Go ahead.
My question's for Delegate Kipke. In the essential health benefits draft, there's like 16 categories, and I heard you mention hair prosthesis, which kind of stood out to me when I read through it. But abortion is also listed in there and is unlimited. And I'm just curious as to where that stands right now in terms of the draft going forward and what's being done about abortion.
They're crafty. You remember abortion wasn't supposed to be covered by federal dollars. But what it is, every plan that's going to be required in the state of Maryland will cover abortion. However, if you buy your plan through the exchange, which is the online website that will be available next year, and you're of the income level that you qualify for subsidies, the subsidy dollars from the federal government can't pay for the abortion coverage. So that means what comes out of your pocket will be a few dollars more. So it's a runaround. You remember what happened with that famous senator or congressman, I can't remember, who was, what's his name, Stupak, where he cut his deal that abortion, he would vote for it. Well, that was just stupid, because they're just going to cover it by making you pay out of your pocket a few dollars more.
Thank you.
I can't even imagine how they Good afternoon, gentlemen. In the vein of putting things out there for what you were talking about, Mr. Kipke, is why don't we, have you guys seen those little QR codes, those little black squares with the squiggly things on it?
Yeah, I do.
Well, most of our low information voters ride the metro, ride the bus, ride the trains. Well, why don't we do a campaign like Pamela Geller did, put those little box things up there, and every time, each week, we can have featuring a new delegate or senator who has stepped over to socialism or said something that we can get it on video like that, and then we go ahead and have it on our ads in the train stations, the bus stations, the bus stops, and in the cars, like the train and the buses and everything like that. And to get things started, there's plenty of us in this room that we could sit on one of those buses, trains, and automobiles, whatever it is that we start this campaign on, scan it with our smartphone, put it up on speaker, and say, holy cow, look at what this little ad just did. And we get it going like that, to where we use that technology to our advantage so we can go ahead. If you want to give us, I'll be down there once a week. I'll stand there with my little phone and videotape the heck out of them. I have no problem. We can put it up on video. We can put those little ads out. But is that something that this group would want to do? Sure. Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Hi, my question's for Nick. I would like to know if the governor is planning on getting rid of our petition process that Neil Parrott set up for us. I've heard rumors.
Yeah. Last session, a group of our friends, including myself, we sponsored legislation to require photo ID when you vote. It's not the grand solution to all the fraud that goes on in elections, but it's a good step in my opinion. That same year, the opponents of the petition process, because it's been so successful, wanted to require a notary, a notarized sheet every time we had a petition sheet that was filled out. So, a little double standard there. However, there will be a bill this session, and if you focus on nothing else, if folks in this room focus on nothing else, it's defeating the people's petition to referendum. They're going to raise the bar, either the number of signatures that have to be required, or perhaps to shackle the technology that Delegate Parrott has created. We obviously will do everything we can to get the word out about this process and how to get involved. But I have to tell you, because most of our people work, they don't show up. You know, when the union's ticked off, they bring down 5,000 people in one color shirt, and they go to everyone's office because they get paid to show up. People in this room work, but if we focus on anything this year, obviously it's got to be the people's petition, because we were so successful in using that for the first time in decades.
Okay, thank you very much.
Please take a look at your watches.